Question 1. In the context of a routine service call, Mr. Alvarez is tasked with inspecting a rooftop HVAC unit in a commercial facility. Before beginning, he deactivates the unit at the disconnect switch and applies a personal lockout tag. Moments later, a second technician from another crew reactivates the unit, unaware of Mr. Alvarez's presence. What critical mistake has occurred in this situation? A. Mr. Alvarez failed to verify zero energy state after LOTO. B. The facility did not implement group lockout procedure. C. The second technician ignored posted signage and PPE protocols. D. Mr. Alvarez should have completed the service without lockout. Answer. Correct answer. B. The facility did not implement a group lockout procedure. Explanation. This scenario illustrates a failure in coordinated LOTO practices, particularly in a multi-worker environment. According to OSHA 1910.147 and NFPA 7I, when multiple employees work on the same equipment, a group LOTO system must be used. Each worker should apply their own lock, ensuring no one can restore power until every lock is removed. Mr. Alvarez followed individual LOTO but lacked protection due to missing group coordination. The second technician's mistake stems from the employer's failure to implement group LOTO, not solely personal error. Question 2. Based on the information found during a service inspection, Chen discovers a run capacitor that appears swollen and warm to the touch while diagnosing a malfunctioning HVAC motor. Which of the following would be the most appropriate next step? A. Discharge and reuse the capacitor if the motor starts. B. Bypass the capacitor temporarily to see if motor functions. C. Discharge and test the capacitor using an ohmmeter or capacitance meter. D. Replace the motor without testing the capacitor. Answer. Correct answer. C. Discharge and test the capacitor using an ohmmeter or capacitance meter. Explanation. A bulging or warm capacitor is a sign of failure or internal pressure buildup. According to NEC Article 430 and NFPA 7 technicians must never reuse suspect capacitors without testing. Proper procedure involves safely discharging the capacitor and using a capacitance meter or ohmmeter to assess functionality. Components is a code violation and dangerous. Prematurely replacing the motor without confirming capacitor integrity leads to misdiagnosis. Question 3. When analyzing the behavior of a two-stage thermostat, Mr. Hargrove notices that the compressor starts at the first stage, but the blower fails to engage until the second stage. Which underlying issue is most likely responsible for this condition? A. Reversed high-voltage input to the contactor. B. Defective run capacitor on the blower motor. C. Miswired thermostat control terminals. D. Low refrigerant pressure disabling blower motor. Answer. Correct answer. C. Miswired thermostat control terminals. Explanation. Improperly connected thermostat terminals can lead to staging and timing issues between the compressor and blower. The low voltage control circuit dictates staging, and a misconnection, e.g. mixing up I or G terminals, causes delayed or incorrect engagement. According to NEC Article 725 of manufacturer-specific schematics, correct configuration is essential. Capacitor failure or refrigerant issues would not cause delayed blower activation specifically tied to staging logic. Question 4. Throughout the course of a job site safety audit, it was found that Mr. Davis performs voltage testing on energized HVAC panels without wearing arc-rated face shields or gloves, relying only on insulated tools. What is the primary compliance issue here? A. Mr. Davis should wear flame retardant boots. B. Insulated tools are not allowed for voltage testing. C. PPE is not required during low voltage testing. D. Mr. Davis is not in compliance with NFPA 7 ARC flash PPE guidelines. Answer. Correct answer. D. Mr. Davis is not in compliance with NFPA 7 ARC flash PPE guidelines. Explanation. According to NFPA 7 Table 130.7 C 15A in OSHA 1910 subpart S, any interaction with energized equipment over 50 that poses an arc flash risk requires arc-rated PPE, including gloves, face shields, and protective clothing. Using insulated tools does not eliminate the arc flash or shock. Mr. Davis is violating safety protocols by failing to wear required PPE during energized work. Question 5. To illustrate this point is Torres is troubleshooting a non-operational condenser fan motor. She sets her multimeter to measure resistance across the windings but fails to isolate the motor from the circuit. What is the risk of conducting resistance measurements in this manner? A. The reading will be more accurate if the motor is powered. B. There is no risk because multimeters are protected. C. Measuring resistance on a live circuit can damage the multimeter or give false readings. D. Voltage and resistance readings are interchangeable. Answer. Correct answer. C. Measuring resistance on a live circuit can damage the multimeter or give false readings. Explanation. Resistance should only be measured on de-energized circuits, as applying ohms testing on a live circuit may damage the meter or produce dangerous arc faults. According to NFPA 7TI Section 130.7 and manufacturer safety guidelines, a technician must always de-energize and verify voltage before taking resistance measurements. Is Torres risks injury and tool failure by skipping this critical step? Question 6. From a practical standpoint, HRConquer is repairing a failed contactor on a rooftop package unit. The disconnect switch is off and he believes the unit is safe to work on. However, a second power source through a control transformer is still energized. What key step was missed? A. Grounding the cabinet enclosure. B. Replacing the transformer fuse before repair. C. Identification and isolation of all hazardous energy sources. D. Confirming airflow direction before component replacement. Answer. Correct answer. C. Identification and isolation of all hazardous energy sources. Explanation. This scenario highlights failure to verify and control all energy sources, a critical step in hazardous energy control as outlined in OSHA 1910.147 and in FPA 7TI 120.1a. Transformers can backfeed low-voltage control circuits even when the main disconnect is open. The technician locate and isolate every energy source, including control voltage, to prevent shock or inadvertent activation. Question 7. The development of variable frequency drive (VFD) systems in HVACR has improved motor efficiency. However, when Istanuin installs at AE, the motor consistently trips under load. He checks wiring and finds no shorts. What could be the most probable underlying issue? A. The motor is undersized for its load. B. VFD is wired to the line side instead of the load side. C. The motor is not rated for inverter duty. D. Motor shaft alignment is incorrect. Answer. Correct answer. C. The motor is not rated for inverter duty. Explanation. VFDs produce high-frequency switching signals that require motors with enhanced insulation and thermal properties, known as inverter duty motors. If the standard motor is used with a AE, overheating and insulation breakdown may occur, leading to nuisance tripping. Per NEMA MG Part 31 and NEC 430 compatibility between VFDs and motor. Critical for performance and safety. Question 8. Examining the consequences of improper HVACR equipment installation, what would be the expected outcome if a technician fails to follow conductor ampacity requirements according to NEC when installing a condensing unit? A. Improved energy efficiency. B. Overheating and fire hazard due to undersized conductors. C. System protection improves due to smaller wire size. D. The circuit breaker will reset more easily. Answer. Correct answer. B. Overheating and fire hazard due to undersized conductors. Explanation. NEC Article 310 mandates proper conductor sizing based on current load, ambient temperature, and installation conditions. Using undersized wire leads to excessive voltage drop and conductor overheating, creating a fire hazard and violating NEC 110.3b. It also impairs system reliability and increases energy losses. Oversizing is a concern, but doesn't pose the same immediate safety threat. Question 9. With respect to a complaint of a frequently tripping HVAC circuit breaker, Mr. Gonzalez conducts several tests. He verifies amp draw, insulation resistance, and contactor function. All seem normal. What should his next diagnostic step be? A. Replace the circuit breaker immediately. B. Replace the compressor without further tests. C. Use thermal imaging or clam meter during startup. D. Bypass safety switches to continue testing. Answer. Correct answer. C. Use thermal imaging or clamp meter during startup. Explanation. Short-term inrush current or thermal imbalances during startup often go undetected in static tests. Thermal imaging or a clamp meter provides real-time insight into component behavior under load. Per NFPA 7 and NETA standards, dynamic diagnostic tools should follow if standard checks fail to find the issue. Replacing parts blindly, bypassing safeties is unsafe and non-compliant. Question 10. Taking into account that a 240 HVAC compressor draws 24 under normal load and the technician installs 12 or conductors rated for 20 at 75 tick, which of the following NEC violations has occurred? A. The voltage is too low for 12 or conductor. B. The conductors exceed the allowed voltage drop. C. The conductor ampacity is insufficient for the expected current. D. NEC allows 12 or up to 30 for short distances. Answer. Correct answer. C. The conductor ampacity is insufficient for the expected current. Explanation. NEC Table 310.16 rates 12 all copper at 20 at 75 dick insulation. Using it for 24 load violates NEC 240.4b unless exceptions apply, e.g. motor tap rules, which aren't indicated here. Underrated conductors risk overheating and are code violation, especially when continuous loads are involved. Voltage drop and distance are not the core issues here. Question 11. During an inspection of a split system installation, Mr. Bennett notices the equipment ground is terminated to a copper water pipe 12 inches from where it enters the building. The installer claims this satisfies NEC grounding requirements. Is this correct? A. Yes, any metallic pipe within 5 feet of entry can serve as a grounding electrode. B. Yes, as long as the pipe is bonded to the panel neutral bar. C. No, water pipes must be supplemented with an additional grounding electrode system. D. No, only driven ground rods are acceptable grounding electrodes. Answer. Correct answer. C. No, water pipes must be supplemented with an additional grounding electrode system. Explanation. Per NEC 250.52A1 and 250.53D2, a metal water pipe can serve as a grounding electrode only if supplemented by another electrode like a ground rod. Water pipes can become isolated due to repairs or replacements. The system described lacks this required grounding, making it non-compliant. Question 12. The technician replaces a failed 30 breaker protecting a 2-ton condenser unit drawing 15.2 RLA and 83.10 RA. He install a 20 breaker instead, stating it will protect the compressor better. What code violation might this introduce? A. NEC requires breakers to match conductor size, not equipment RLA. B. Breaker undersizing may prevent startup due to inrush current. C. NEC prohibits overcurrent devices on HVAC equipment. D. Array exceeds conductor ampacity. Answer. Correct answer. B. Breaker undersizing may prevent startup due to inrush current. Explanation. HVAC compressors have high locked rotor amps LRA on startup. NEC 440.22a allows oversizing of overcurrent protection for motor starting loads. Installing a 20 breaker when the manufacturer specifies 30 may cause nuisance tripping during startup. Proper protection balances equipment safety, operability. Question 13. Is Ortega connects a 24th control circuit for a gas furnace thermostat. She routes it through the same conduit as 240 power conductors for the blower motor. What NEC violation does this represent? A. Control conductors cannot be run indoors. B. Control wires must be the same gauge as power wires. C. Mixing different voltage classes in a raceway is prohibited without separation. D. Class 2 control circuits require twisted pair conductors. Answer. Correct answer. C. Mixing different voltage classes in a raceway is prohibited without separation. Explanation. According to NEC 300.3C1 and 725.136a, control conductors Class 2 may not share raceways with power circuits unless all conductors are rated for the highest voltage present. This prevents voltage induction or insulation failure. Is Ortega's installation introduces cross-voltage hazard? Question 14. Mr. Dunn is about to troubleshoot a 480 air handling unit panel. His supervisor insists it's safe because the panel has dead front cover and no visible arc flash warning label. What is the safest course of action? A. Assume no arc flash risk if there's no label. B. Denergize the unit before any interaction with the panel. C. Wear arc-rated gear and proceed without denergizing. D. Replace the warning label before starting work. Answer. Correct answer. B. Denergize the unit before any interaction with the panel. Explanation. Per NFPA 7I Article 120.1 and OSHA 1910.333.8.1, denergizing is the preferred method of electrical work. Lack of a label does not eliminate arc flash risk. The absence of labeling is hazard in itself. Workers must verify zero energy before working inside or near the panel. Question 15. When troubleshooting a faulty defrost board, EST uses a digital multimeter to check voltage across control terminals. However, the display fluctuates between 0 and 16. What is the most likely cause of this? A. The board is generating harmonics due to a failed capacitor. B. He is using the wrong function on the multimeter. C. The multimeter is detecting ghost voltage from an open control wire. D. The transformer is wired backward. Answer. Correct answer. C. The multimeter is detecting ghost voltage from an open control wire. Explanation. Digital meters may show ghost voltages when wires are disconnected or open-ended due to capacitive coupling from nearby live conductors. Per NFPA 7I 110.4a, readings must be verified with known loads or low impedance testers. EST is not measuring true voltage in this condition. Question 16. A technician installs 10 HRConquer wire for a 35-year continuous load rooftop unit with ambient conditions exceeding 110 deg. The insulation is rated at 9 deg. What issue may arise if no correction factors are applied? A. No issue, since 10 org is suitable for up to 40 at 9 deg. B. The ampacity of the wire may be reduced due to temperature derating. C. The breaker will compensate for heat rise. D. NEC allows ambient temperature to be ignored for rooftop equipment. Answer. Correct answer. B. The ampacity of the wire may be reduced due to temperature derating. Explanation. NEC Table 310.16 requires derating conductor ampacity for ambient temperatures above 86 deg, 30 deg. At 110 deg, the derating factor reduces ampacity of 10 or below 35-year, risking overheating. Proper wire sizing requires applying ambient and grouping adjustments per NEC 310.15b. Question 17. While installing a new mini-split, ISLIN mounts the outdoor disconnect switch behind the unit for aesthetics. It is 42 inches from grade and within sight of the unit. What is the compliance issue here? A. The disconnect is too far from the condensing unit. B. Disconnects must not be behind or obstructed by equipment. C. The disconnect is required to be at least 60 inches from ground. D. It must have a weatherproof label stating line voltage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Disconnect must not be behind or obstructed by equipment. Explanation. Per NEC 440.14, disconnecting means must be readily accessible and not behind the equipment or require movement of the unit to access, even if within sight, and height range obstruction by equipment violates accessibility rules. Aesthetics must never compromise safety. Question 18. During a city inspection, Mr. Silva is cited for installing an air handler with a nameplate showing 200, 430, but the actual line voltage measured is 249 of. What NEC issue is most applicable? A. Nameplate voltage must match voltage within plus 1%. B. Operating equipment above nameplate voltages violation. C. The unit should be rewired for delta voltage. The equipment label must show wire color coding. Answer. Correct answer. B. Operating equipment above nameplate voltages, a violation. Explanation. NEC Article 110.3b requires equipment to be installed per manufacturer, listing and labeling. Operating HVAC equipment above the nameplate rated voltage, in this case exceeding 230 by more than 10%, can void all listing and pose a fire risk. Overvoltage damages motors and controls. Question 19. Mr. Patel installs a control transformer with a 400-ATIV primary and 120 secondary. He fuses the primary side only and omits secondary protection. What potential violation does this cause? A. Fusing the primary only is acceptable for transformers under 1 kVA. B. Secondary overcurrent protection is required unless transformer meets NEC exception. C. Transformers cannot be used for control circuits. D. The secondary voltage must be grounded instead of fused. Answer. Correct answer. B. Secondary overcurrent protection is required unless transformer meets NEC exception. Explanation. NEC 450.3b requires overcurrent protection on both primary and secondary unless exceptions e.g. transformer under 1.0 kVA supplying a single circuit are met. Failing to protect the 120 side can allow overloads or shorts in the control circuit, posing fire risks. Question 20. In reviewing a schematic for a VAV system, Knight notices that the line diagram shows a normally open, no contact in the blower control circuit, yet the narrative indicates the blower starts immediately upon power up. What should she conclude? A. The diagram is incorrect and must be revised. B. The contact may be controlled by a delay on timer or pressure switch. C. No contacts are always closed when energized. D. The narrative takes precedence over diagrams in all cases. Answer. Correct answer. B. The contact may be controlled by a delay on timer or pressure switch. Explanation. Schematic interpretation must consider dynamic control elements like time delays, pressure switches, or thermostatic signals that may close and no contact after startup. According to NEC 430.8 and best practices in electrical troubleshooting, both the diagram and narrative must be cross-referenced for logical control behavior. Question 21. During maintenance on a rooftop unit, Mr. Evans locks out the 400 ATIV disconnect but fails to test for voltage at the terminals. He proceeds assuming the unit is de-energized. What OSHA violation has occurred? A. He did not verify isolation using a test instrument. B. He failed to notify his supervisor before lockout. C. He used a personal lock instead of a group lockbox. D. He failed to document the lockout on the equipment. Answer. Correct answer. A. He did not verify isolation using a test instrument. Explanation. Per OSHA 1910.147d6 and in FPA 7I Article 120.5, verification of zero energy is required after lockout is applied. This includes using a test instrument and confirming its functioning by testing on a known live source first. Failure to test is a serious LOTO violation. Question 22. While updating a commercial air handler, Park discovers the panel board has multiple unmarked breakers, making it unclear which breaker feeds the unit. She flips breakers until the unit shuts off. What NEC issue is present? A. HVAC equipment must be on a dedicated panel. B. Panels must be located within sight of HVAC equipment. C. All circuits must be clearly identified at the panel board. D. Breakers must be grouped by amperage size. Answer. Correct answer. C. All circuits must be clearly identified at the panel board. Explanation. NEC 408.48 requires that all circuits be legibly and durably identified at the panel board to avoid tri-land air shutoffs. Park's method introduces the risk of equipment damage or personnel hazard. Clear labeling is a code requirement for all branch circuits. Question 23. While troubleshooting a live 240 disconnect, Mr. Soto wears insulated gloves and safety glasses, but skips his R-rated clothing due to the panel being small and low risk. What regulation is violated? A. Gloves must be retested every 24 hours. B. Arc flash protection is required regardless of panel size. C. Safety glasses are insufficient. Face shields are required for low voltage. D. PPE must be stored in a climate-controlled environment. Answer. Correct answer. B. Arc flash protection is required regardless of panel size. Explanation. NFPA 7SI 130.7c requires appropriate arc-rated clothing when working on more near-energized conductors with potential for arc flash, regardless of voltage or panel size. Risk assessments must consider available fault current, not assumptions about low risk. Question 24. Is new and installs a Class 2 24 thermostat circuit and intentionally grounds one leg of the secondary transformer. What condition may this create if the transformer is not listed for grounding? A. Equipment malfunction due to improper polarity. B. Shock hazard on the 24 system. C. Neck violation for grounding. A Class 2 system not intended for it. D. Overvoltage on the primary side. Answer. Correct answer. C. Neck violation for grounding. A Class 2 system not intended for it. Explanation. Per NEC 725.3b and NEC 250.162, Class 2 circuits are not required to be grounded and typically operate as floating systems. Grounding them without manufacturer approval may cause erratic behavior and code violations. Only listed transformers should be grounded if designed for it. Question 25. An HVAC tech wires a 280 three-phase package unit with MQA of 29.5 and MOP of 50. He installs a 40 breaker and number TEHN conductors. What potential issue exists? A. Breaker is undersized for the locked rotor current. B. Conductor is oversized for the application. C. Breaker exceeds conductor ampacity. D. Conductor insulation is incorrect for three-phase loads. Answer. Correct answer. C. Breaker exceeds conductor ampacity. Explanation. NEC 440.22a permits oversized overcurrent protection based on MOP. However, NEC 310.16 limits number TTECH to 35 at 75 dig, meaning the 40 breaker exceeds conductor ampacity. Either larger conductor or smaller breaker must be selected to meet NEC rules. Question 26. A technician installs a new panel board for HVAC equipment in a mechanical room. The panel is mounted 6 feet high, directly behind an access ladder. What NEC violation is most relevant? A. Panels must be within 6 feet of the ground. B. Ladder access to electrical panels is prohibited. C. Panels must have 3 feet of clear working space. D. Panels cannot be mounted in mechanical rooms. Answer. Correct answer. C. Panels must have 3 feet of clear working space. Explanation. NEC 110.26a requires a minimum 3 feet of clear, unobstructed working space in front of electrical panels rated 0600. Placing panel behind fixed obstruction like ladder violates this rule and may prevent safe servicing or emergency shutdown. Question 27. Istaloid installs a 10-foot tap conductor from a 400 feeder to a 100 fuse disconnect for a rooftop unit. The tap conductors are 2 copper. What must be ensured for this to be compliant? A. Tap conductors must be in PVC conduit. B. Tap conductors must be protected from physical damage. C. Tap conductors must terminate on the main panel. D. Tap conductors must match feeder conductor size. Answer. Correct answer. B. Tap conductors must be protected from physical damage. Explanation. NEC 240.21 B1 10-foot feeder tap rule allows short tap conductors without overcurrent protection if they are limited to 10 feet, terminated in a properly rated device, and protected from physical damage. Failing to protect them exposes them to risk of faults without upstream protection. Question 20. A tech observes a rooftop unit repeatedly tripping its 60 breaker on startup despite normal array and relay values. What advanced troubleshooting step is most appropriate? A. Replace the breaker with a larger one. B. Check the breaker trip curve for compatibility with motor and rush. C. Add additional ground rods to improve fault clearing. D. Upgrade the unit to soft start operation. Answer. Correct answer. B. Check the breaker trip curve for compatibility with motor inrush. Explanation. HVAC compressors may trip standard breakers due to high inrush current. NEC 430.52 C allows use of inverse time breakers or breakers with appropriate trip curves E, G, D or K curve to handle motor starting current without nuisance tripping. Question 29. A rooftop HVAC unit is connected with FMC flexible metal conduit, which serves as the sole equipment grounding path. What NEC concern may this raise: A. FMC must be painted green to indicate grounding use. B. Bonding jumper is required across the entire conduit. C. FMC must not be used as the grounding path for motor circuits. D. FMC is acceptable only if meeting length and continuity rules. Answer. Correct answer D. FMC is acceptable only if meeting length and continuity rules. Explanation. NEC 250.118.5 permits FMC as an equipment grounding conductor, but only if it is properly terminated less than 6 feet and installed to maintain electrical continuity. Loose or corroded connections can lead to open ground paths, making this a common oversight. Question 30. During a service call, a tech discovers a mini split condenser installed without a visible disconnect switch. The homeowner says it's inside the garage. What code issue does this present? A. NEC prohibit HVAC equipment indoors if served by outdoor disconnects. B. Disconnects must be within 10 feet of the HVAC unit and visible from it. C. All disconnects must be key locked outdoors. D. Indoor disconnects must be GSEI protected. Answer. Correct answer. B. Disconnects must be within 10 feet of the HVAC unit and visible from it. Explanation. NEC 440.14 mandates that the disconnecting means must be within sight and readily accessible from the HVAC unit it serves. A remote disconnect inside a garage, if not within visual line of the condenser, is non-compliant and may delay emergency shutdown.